He is Alex Dunlap. I'm the Podfather. This is Content Kings. And Alex, you overheard us talking about Rosterwatch on the last Sonic Truth show and the mock draft we did last year. And then we finally did a mock draft. There was a lot of demand for a rookie mock draft. We always hold out as long as we can.
Pent up demand, right?
It's incredible.
It's just incredible.
It's what they want. It's what they want. And every year we do a mock draft earlier and earlier because we just can't fight the buzzards any longer. They want it, and we're like, hey, listen, but we have a show sheet and we want to do lay out our topics in this way, and they're like, just mock draft, damn it, just do a mock. And we're like, okay, fine. So it's like February 7th, it was February 3rd. The calendar flips over to February, and we are mock drafting, and that's where we're at now.
Can we? It's not even on the show sheet, but can we talk about Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
What are we doing with him in Dynasty rookie drafts? He's going to the combine as a cornerback. If you take him super early and some team drafts him to play corner and he gets 5 plays a game on offense, you're totally screwed. I don't know what to do about this. Cody and I were having the conversation yesterday. I'm like, should I just, it's like, I was like, should we just take him off of the rookie rankings sheet now? And Cody's like, dude, no, like what's changed in the last 24 hours? We knew that he was probably going to test at the combine as a corner. We're going to have to rank him for fantasy in a way that is just commiserate with the fact that it could be that you end up drafting a guy that's a cornerback.
He's not going to play both positions. He's not going to be a two-way player in the NFL.
Well,
that's not on the table, right?
Well, no. Well, I mean, they kind of said he wouldn't be able to do it, and he wouldn't be able to continue doing it in college, and he just kind of did. They're like, dude, he can't go through college playing 130 snaps a game, and so I mean, he did. I mean, he's obviously a mold breaker, but I do look, man. If he's let's just think about it. So if he were to, and I know this is not even on the show sheet, so sorry to start out the show with a curveball, but if he were to come in and, all right, he's good at both, right? He's a really good wide receiver. He's a really good cornerback, right? The NFL obviously likes him better at corner, but even if they liked him better at wide receiver, could you ever see? There's never going to be a situation where it's like where you're going to get the most value out of this player by saying, "Oh, all right, let's have him play let's have him play wide receiver, and then let's have some packages where he plays corner." That just isn't how it would work. The only way that he's going to play on offense is if he's playing cornerback, and they're like, "All right, well, we're going to have some of the Travis Hunter packages on offense. We're going to get him in there for 15 gadget snaps per week," right? There's never going to be a 15 gadget cornerback snaps per week. Like that's a game. Like you got to be in there for the whole dance, for the whole game, working with the wide receiver. Working against the wide receiver, doing that stuff.
There's not a situation in the game where it's like, all right, we got to finally put Travis Hunter in at corner. We got to shut this guy down. Yeah. Player X is killing us, and we need to put Travis Hunter out there. Enough already. Right, we need to push the red button, call the red phone, get Travis Hunter out there and shut down wide receiver X. That's not going to happen. If he's not putting in the snaps in practice and he's not putting in the work as a full-time corner, he's not going to be capable of going out and smothering an NFL wide receiver, especially a top-tier talent like a Jamar Chase. That's never going to happen. He's only going to get to that level where he could shadow a Jamar Chase if he is a full-time corner in the off season, in practice, in the film room,
throughout
all
a game.
Those things.
Right, throughout a game, you got to get into the matchup with the other guy, right? It's like you don't just come in for one thing like on offense where they can just hand him a ball in a reverse or get him on a orbit motion and just get the ball in his hands. It's just different, and so I wonder. Like, where is he going? Like, so fast draft, you guys have the origin stuff right now.
The rookie only drafts? Yeah,
rookie only drafts on fast draft.
I've seen him go as high as 5, as low as 10. He's in that 5 to 10 zone. But what's interesting to me here is
that's a terrible pick, Matt.
If you're an NFL team and you're going to draft Travis Hunter, one of the benefits, one of the allures of Travis Hunter is his dual purpose ability, right? You have that. And the only way you're going to get anything out of him as a two-way player is if he's a full-time corner and a part-time offensive player. We know that. But on the other side, that's the incentive structure of the team. The incentive structure of the Travis Hunter camp is we want to be a full-time wide receiver and get full-time wide receiver, star wide receiver money. So we know that star wide receivers make more than the top corners. So if you're, and you also get more endorsements. So if you're Travis Hunter and you're his agent, you prefer him to go into the league as a wide receiver if you believe that the probability of him breaking out as a star receiver is about equivalent of him breaking out as a star corner. Now, Sauce Gardner does have endorsements. Sauce Gardner is going to be, very well paid. He's going to be paid more than almost every other wide receiver in the league. So it's certainly possible for you to be on par with all but the absolute best wide receivers in the league in terms of annual compensation. So it's not like the differential between corners and wide receivers is that great. It's not like running back and wide receiver. It's not like that at all. So that's the math that you're doing. If you're sitting, it's a very interesting dilemma that Travis Hunter faces in that ideally, if things break right, he is a star wide receiver and he never plays it down at corner. He would actually make more doing that than contributing at all as a cornerback. But if you're an NFL team, you'd much rather him be a full-time corner because lockdown corners are so hard to find, harder to find than quality, wide receivers that can contribute to an offense. And then you also get the benefit, if you're an NFL team, of being able to call gadget plays for him or just have him play out of the slot. We saw with Deion Sanders, we've seen it in situations where you have a running back running plays out of the slot, running routes out of the slot. You've seen running backs convert to wide receiver and receivers convert to running back. Dexter McCluster, Tavon Austin, all of these players have added value to NFL offenses. So to have the potential of a lockdown corner and a playmaker that can add value to the offense, an NFL team would want him in that role. But he and his people would rather him be a wide receiver. So if he is opting to go to the combine as a cornerback, that's his choice. If he's making this choice on the front end, you know what? We've weighed all our options, and I've had to be honest with myself about where my abilities are and where I can optimize my growth as a professional. If he's volunteering to go to the combine as a corner, that tells me that they've done all the iterations behind the scenes and they've projected all of his outcomes and they've said, listen, the way to optimize your outcomes, to minimize the risk and to maximize the upside for your career is to go to the combine as a corner. In that case, drafting Travis Hunter in the first round of a rookie draft or the first round of the Origins rookie best ball tournament on Fast Draft is a mistake.
If he gets drafted as a corner, it's lighting it on fire. I think that the one thing, I think you're right. I'll just an addendum to sort of what you said as far as like the money that he can make as far as marketing dollars, all the rest of that stuff. And I understand, like you said, Justin Jefferson is on all the commercials, right? Darius Slay or something.
He's not going to be on the cover of Madden as a cornerback.
Yeah, but if you're a guy that's widely recognized and sort of famous as a really good cornerback, but you also can come in and you can make big plays on offense and stuff, you're gonna probably get to be on the cover of magazines and all the rest of it, just because that's such a unicorn type of player, right? But I think there has to be some kind of, there has to be something where there's the splash plays on offense to kind of go along with it. My question is, it's just like, if we're just talking about. If we're just talking about it from people are crazy about getting ready for Dynasty rookie mocks right now. We're about to talk about the whole rookie class in general, but I just feel like this is kind of like, as far as the actual NFL draft, this is the Heisman winner. This is like a keystone piece of the actual rookie class, right?
Yeah.
It's so.
Would you draft him
weird.
1 overall if you could get him as a corner who also is going to play, let's say, 25% of the offensive snaps? Isn't he worth the first overall pick?
In football or
not in the NFL draft in April?
Sure.
Yeah, yes. Right?
But yeah, it's just so much different than it's why we use the generational term too much. I mean, everybody does it. They say there's generational talent, but like that's a truly, literally kind of like in my job. I can't. How many of these guys have we had?
Well, it's a great point you're making, though. Your point is great in that you can't compare him to Sauce Gardner. You've got to put him in a completely different category that we haven't seen before, where you have to go to other sports and look at Ohtani and be like, okay, if Ohtani's going to be a starting pitcher, you can't just look at him as a starting pitcher and project his endorsement dollars of the top starting pitchers. No, he's a completely different guy. He's a unicorn. So if
flats home runs and stuff too, it's wild. Yeah.
Travis Hunter as a unicorn is potentially going to get on the cover of Madden.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Hunter as the first NFL player since Deion Sanders to really do this in a meaningful way, week in, week out in the NFL as a star player at a high level. He is going to get all the endorsement money anyway. So he's going to live the life of a wide receiver, play corner, score some exciting touchdowns on offense because he's going to be featured in when he's on the field. That's the other nice thing about it, is his target rate will be very high when he's on the field, but that's not going to be enough. If you're only getting 25% of snaps, it's just not going to be enough. It's not going to be. He's not someone that you would want to draft in that case in fantasy football. It's like Deion Sanders was never someone that was helping your fantasy team, but he was very exciting.
Exactly.
He was very exciting. It was an exciting situation when he would get out there.
He's not going to score you any fantasy points. So I because
Deion Sanders was the ultimate. Like people are like, oh, Deion Sanders, you're talking about something else. You're talking about two sports. No. On the Falcons, he played a lot of wide receiver. Do you remember this? There were a few seasons where they had him at wide receiver. They were playing him a lot at wide receiver. This was a thing that was happening. This is going to be that times 5 in terms of the number of snaps that Justin Hunter will be able to not. Did I say Justin Hunter?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's probably true about Justin Hunter, too. I'm not sure he could play that many snaps right now.
I can't believe I said that's embarrassing. Justin Hunter was a wide receiver for Tennessee, who then went to Tennessee and was a massive bust.
Yeah. What if Travis Hunter goes to Tennessee?
Travis Hunter could. I mean, that's very much in play, isn't it?
And so how do you take him in the first round of your Dynasty rookie draft?
You can't. Well, let me pull it up. I'll pull up Origins. I'll pull up the latest draft on Origins. Just went off. Justin Hunter, also known as Travis Hunter. This just, man, my brain. The problem, I think this happens because it's like when your brain is formed and it's making all of its neurological connections. I was the most studied, immersed, like setting up every player page on PlayerProfiler manually at the time when Justin Hunter was a rookie.
Yeah, you got those synapses just already just built into the brain.
There's a handful of those draft classes with Jalen Strong. You remember these guys, right? I'll never forget any of
Jalen
these
with the
guys.
E in the middle of the name, right? Like you even remember how it's spelled.
I remember how it's spelled. Martavis Bryant. These are the players that they're always going to be firing in my brain and confusing me. So yes, Travis Hunter went at the 107. So this draft went Ashton Genty, Cameron Ward, Shadur Sanders, Tet McMillan, Hampton, Burton, Hunter, Egbuka, Warren, Travion Henderson. And this is why people should be drafting on Fast Draft, because think of the names that weren't listed there. You didn't hear Judkins, you didn't hear Dart, you didn't hear Caleb Johnson, so you didn't hear Ollie Gordon. I'm more of a running back drafter in rookie drafts. So when I see a bunch of wide receivers go in the first round, I'm eager to get in the second round and slay.
Who is Burton? Oh, Burden. Luther Burden. I'm sorry. Okay.
Burden.
I'm like, who's he talking about?
It's not Burton. It's Burden. It's a burden hand, or just he is a burden on your fantasy team if you draft him in the first round.
He's not going to be a burden.
He's not going to be a burden?
No, man. Luther Burden's good, but there's not many good wide receivers.
I mean, he was really good 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He was unbelievable 2 years ago.
Yeah. Dude, I think Brady. I think his quarterback was his quarterback was really bad this season. But look, man, I think as far as this rookie class, all the Travis Hunter stuff aside, the reason I texted you and I thought that what y'all were saying on the Sonic Truth show was bad. What
was the bad analysis?
It was super bad. It was like it was so here it was, and people can go back and listen to y'all's show with you and Theo, and I forget
this was the last Sonic Truth, the mock draft that we did, where we finally caved to the audience and did a mock draft way earlier than we wanted to.
Yeah. And so it was, you were on the clock with the first overall pick, and Theo's like, congratulations, you have the easiest pick of all time. You get to take Ashton Genty, the running back out of Boise, right? And you're like, well, wait. I thought that this was the best running back class of all time. It's the best since 2017 or, since 2011 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Like, I thought it's the best, all this. And you're telling me, and so you dastardly Theo, you're here telling me that it's the easiest pick in the world. If it's such a good running back class, shouldn't we be having a grand debate about which one of these guys is best? Like, because this guy's so good, and this guy's so good, and this guy's so good. It's like, if it's such a great class, why is there no debate? Why is it the simplest thing? Why do we have this guy that's stacked so far ahead?
And right? The lie that you detected was what?
It's not a lie. It's just it's a misrepresentation of the landscape. It's a misrepresentation of the running back landscape.
Okay.
And the reason that's true is, look, let me just ask you, did you watch much Ashton Genty this season?
I don't watch a lot of college football, but I've studied his stats and advanced metrics, and I've seen a lot of clips.
Okay.
Am I weird? Should I have been watching full Boise State games? Is that something that I needed to be doing to have credibility?
No, I'm the weird one, right? Whenever it's just like, I love college football. And so whenever it wouldn't be like I would make Boise appointment watching and stuff. But if it was a primetime game and stuff, I'd be like, I see it was Boise. I'd be like, oh yeah, Genty time, right? Because you turn it on and it's a show, right? He's one of these dudes where every single time, if you wanted to go on Prize Picks or Underdog and go make a bet on him to do something big in this game, you do it every week. It was like 210.5 would be the higher or lower. You know what I mean? It was like he he was an alien that just took over games. And then you just look at if you even look at the PFF stuff with the forced missed tackles and like just the best of all time. And, yards after contact, it's like that girl on the plane. It's like pointing at him and just saying like, that dude's not real. You know what I mean? Like he just doesn't seem real. And so I just think that generally people in Dynasty are usually, people in Dynasty, they play Devy and they will always watch college football and they're so into this stuff. And this is Genty this last year. If you would have watched him, he was singularly just so much, just so prolific. And you just say to yourself, man, how can I not take that guy how can I not take Genty? It's just like after this whole season, it's like, how can I not take him? He's been like unlike anything I've ever really seen. Right. But that doesn't mean then you look at like Omari and Hampton though. And I look at Omari and Hampton, who I think is the clear running back 2 in this class. He should be the running back 2. That's the correct thing. You're talking about a guy that's 6 foot, 220, can catch the football, has elite contact balance, elite acceleration, super fast top end speed. He looks like Jonathan Taylor out there, but who can catch better. And so you think to yourself, okay, well, why can't that guy be running back 1? And you're like, well, because Genty's in the class. And then you start looking down a little bit and you're like, well, what about Caleb Johnson from Iowa? That looks like he's probably the most professional running back in this class, an elite zone runner, inside zone, outside zone, one cut and go, just perfect. He looks we would have been talking about Caleb Johnson in the same mold as like Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs that year. He's like we have like 4 or 5
who, by the way, just went second round in the Origins tournament with a $25,000 prize pool. That guy.
He went in the second round?
He went second round.
Okay, most of
the time he goes first round, but you never know. That's why you draft, because someone took Egbuka at 8 and someone took Tyler Warren at 9. That's why. And then there's so many running backs. There's Judkins, there's Travion Henderson, and then Caleb Johnson, he falls a few picks. That's why you draft. That's why we draft, because you never know when you're going to be in a draft room, and that is going to happen.
But Matt, it's just though whenever you just look at the state of the running back class, I'm just looking at it now, like Ashton Genty, Omari and Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon, RJ Harvey, all of those guys would have been taken last year before Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson. All of them. Every single one of them. And you can even start talking about, and then we haven't even talked about like Trevor Etienne or Cam Scadaboo or Jordan James, who some people like probably a little bit more than I do, Jordan James from Oregon. But then there's also Damian Martinez from Miami. There's Jarquez Hunter from Auburn that reminds me a ton of like Blake Corum. He's going to get that same kind of draft capital. Devin Neal from Kansas. People are talking about him like he might run a sub 4.3. And he was like Devin Neal at 220 pounds running a sub 4.3.
I was going to say, isn't he 220 pounds?
But he's fast. And he says he's going to run sub 4.3. He said it at the Senior Bowl. Now he's probably lying, but you can't lie that bad.
Wow, it sounds like he's like the next Isaac Garendo.
Well, but that's another thing. It's like if you just look at like the 2025 class versus the 2024 class, how many of these guys have I mentioned now that are, what I've talked about? Genty, Omari and Hampton, Travion Henderson, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Ollie Gordon, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, Trevor Etienne from Georgia.
You're definitely doing a good job listing names, Alex.
Arizona State. Well, but I'm trying to I have to list names to project the pure amount of volume that we have here at this position. I could list names to 20 and 25, and we're gonna get to players. Look, let me pull up 2024. And let's just look at that. as far as the rookies in that class, and you get to pick number 8, and you're talking about and you get to pick like 4, and you're talking about Jalen Wright or Blake Corum or maybe like Braylon Allen or something.
Okay.
Bucky Irving went later than everybody should have taken him, but then you're starting to get into the Bucky Irvings and Marshawn Lloyd and Ray Davis.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
I'm talking about guys that I want on my dynasty rosters, and you're telling me that I'm going to be
exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
It's a super deep, awesome running back class.
It's a super deep, awesome running back class, and I don't care.
Why?
I don't care about what you're saying. I don't care about the points you're making.
Why?
I am a rhetorical super weapon. If I'm convinced that this class is inferior to last year, I am going to create talking points and I will craft rhetoric to besmirch this class and elevate last year. If I've decided that's my position, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. And you were in your car listening to the show, and I somehow used Genty as a way of criticizing this class. And you were gripping the steering wheel tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and that makes me so happy.
Oh, jeez, dude. All right.
How I was able to do that was a magic trick. That's right. I did it. And you're right. You're right. The fact that we have a running back that's this good should only be able to elevate the class. And to somehow turn that into a negative is a gift that I have.
Do you remember that game that we did on the Sirius XM show about whenever you would where I'd be like, all right, dude, do the game, Matt. Let's just do it right now. Let's see if you can do it right now.
Okay.
Do you know the game I'm talking about?
The game is I will give both sides of the argument with consecutive takes. So if you want to throw a player out there, I'll tell you why he's terrible, and then with a breath and with the very next position, I will take why he's amazing.
Okay. What is this year? Is this year 3 George Pickens coming up?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
year 3 George Pickens. Go.
George Pickens was the best wide receiver in his class, and the only reason he dropped where he was is because he's too intense. Is that right? Because he's too intense. This is supposed to be a negative. All this guy does is eat air yards for breakfast, just consistently getting downfield, making big plays, incredible contested catches. He's like you built an X receiver in a lab. It's like, this is what I want, a throwback X receiver. It's like Michael Irvin with more explosiveness and like that level of toughness and grit on the outside, but also more athleticism, like more ballerina body control. And it's not like they're going to draft somebody in Pittsburgh with this, especially with this draft class. It's going to challenge him to be the alpha. And a lot of receivers break out in year 3. Look at Nico Collins, right? So this is actually, it's all set up perfectly for the Pittsburgh defense to take a step back, which has been inevitable, and get a little bit better quarterback play, a little more continuity at the quarterback position, bring back Russell Wilson. That's what Russell Wilson, where he thrives, throwing the ball to the outside. He historically has not been able to feed his tight ends with any kind of consistency because his eyes are trained to look to the perimeter and look to the middle of the field as a last resort. And so it's just a perfect fit. The deep balls for Russell Wilson to the perimeter with George Pickens. I'm expecting a target spike, his efficiency on per air yard. We always know he's near the top of the league. So I think that he's one of my favorite picks in fantasy football, George Pickens this year.
Okay.
No doubt. How could you not draft him? Wherever he's going on underdog, take him a round earlier.
But how could you draft him?
I don't really like George Pickens, and I've never understood George Pickens, this whole George Pickens fascination. What have you done? Right? What has he done? Like, I get that he was a great player at age 18 at Georgia. And ever since then, he has been this siren song wide receiver, right? And now, he's on Pittsburgh, right? That's not exactly the place to go to unlock a wide receiver. What, Russell Wilson again? Is that what we're doing? We're doing Russell Wilson again? And and now he has to worry about Calvin Austin. That's the thing. That's like, it's always something every year. It's always something with George Pickens. Why he's not commanding the target share that he should. Last year it was, Russ finally started peppering Pat Freiermuth for the first time in his career. He finally figured out how to target the tight end. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's because George Pickens has a hard time separating. George Pickens, yes, he's very good and very efficient down the field with contested catches. Well, maybe that's because that's all he can do. Maybe because he's a one-dimensional sideline catcher, and if he had more versatility to his game, he wouldn't have to be complaining so much and in people's faces about why he's not getting targeted. If he was just getting separation, the targets would take care of themselves. But for now and for forever with George Pickens, he is never going to be a big target commander. He's never going to be a significant contributor to fantasy football. And there's no way I'm drafting this guy. Wherever he's going on underdog, wait around and maybe you get him there, or you never get him.
Dude. I mean, you need to add in the sounder here of just the clapping, and it's just good. So it's just so good. Honestly,
I mean, that's the thing. I'm like a dog you bring on the radio to do tricks.
It's a great trick. Hey, so you had such conviction on both of those. Like, which one of those is your real take, or is like neither your real take? And you're
the bottom line is I'm pretty neutral on George. I'm actually very neutral. I think his ADP is perfect.
You can take him or leave him.
He's never gonna get 150 targets. He's gonna get the air yard share every year, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
he's what he is. It's everything I said he is.
So Adonai Mitchell's on the thumbnail. I think Adonai is somebody you wanted to talk about, and I do honestly think that Adonai is somebody who's just never going to get there.
Can we not talk about Adonai yet? Because this show was crafted, right? The original pitch for this show. What do you call it? The treatment that was put on my desk for this show was that we would talk business. We would talk about behind the scenes, what's happening at Rosterwatch, what's happening at PlayerProfiler, what's happening at Fast Draft, and share more behind the scenes information with the audience about the business of fantasy football, right? And you were telling me before the show that you had a customer cancel this week, and the reason they gave was that in 2024, there was not enough written content on Rosterwatch. And I want to get your thoughts on that, and whether you think that that's a change you're going to make, or you think that this was just an anomaly.
No, okay. So that was something I think. So that wasn't this week, but that was something we wanted to talk about maybe on the last show.
Yes, I know it wasn't this week, but it's just to.
Well, the dynamic
it makes for more interesting conversation. Yes, this is technically, this was a topic that we talked about maybe bringing to the show months ago, but the way I framed it, it makes it just a little more engaging for people, that it doesn't feel stale. Yeah. Now you just revealed that this is actually a fairly stale topic.
It's a very interesting and very dynamic topic, because the model of content at Rosterwatch changes from the in season to the out of out of actual season, right? To where we're in the off season right now. And the off season is where we've honestly made our biggest inroads as a company, right? We were the first ones that were going to I can't say we were the first. I think that Matt Waldman was, he was there at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine and the Combine and stuff whenever we were. Now you see a whole grip of fantasy companies there.
Was Matt Waldman there this year?
No, I don't think Waldman goes anymore. I haven't seen Waldman for a few years. I used to see him and Sigmund Bloom every single year whenever I would go at the beginning. But this
Sigmund's
is like
close. He's in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like
he should go. I saw Waldman. I sat next to Waldman at the very first weigh-in at the 2020 Senior Bowl.
Right. But so anyway,
my first Senior Bowl.
Yeah. So this will be like my 15th year doing it, and for the Pro Day tour and the training camp tour and stuff. Like this is what we like to do, right? So in the off season, like
did Justin Hunter go to the Senior Bowl?
Didn't Justin Hunter come out as a junior?
I think he might have been. He came out early.
Yeah.
To come out early and do that in the pros.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens. Just ask.
Wow.
Just ask. It happens a lot in Tennessee. You can ask Traylon Burks about that. But the thing about the off season is we have a ton of like Cody. Cody's done most of the scouting report, but Cody does the whole write-ups on all the players and stuff. I do write-ups. I do a bunch behind the scenes with kind of editing them and adding in a bunch of my thoughts and stuff like that into the scouting reports for Trashman and Cody. So right now, like people couldn't complain about a lack of written content on the site, right? It's like right now there's a ton of it for our pro members. Like we have all the rookie write-ups up. We have more going up every single day. But dude,
so what happened? Did you take action? That one email, you took action from that?
No, that's just always the model, right? That's always been the model. It's like,
so did you tell this customer to stop lying?
No, I didn't have to. No, I don't have time to deal with every customer.
Did you tell them they're wrong? That maybe they should have their eyes checked.
I don't.
I'm so bad with the ophthalmologist. Schedule an appointment.
Yeah, I'm a lot different than you are, Matt, as far as the way that I kind of lead my company. As far as you say, I'm sure that when somebody cancels, maybe you might even get an email or something, and you might want to reach out to them. It's like I'm not good at dealing with this kind of. We have a girl that handles this. You know what I'm saying? We have an admin who takes care of this stuff. I don't, I'll get forwarded emails if she's like, is there anything I should say to this guy? But mainly I tell her, just don't even forward it to me. Just take, that's the reason you're hired is you take care of it. I have too much to do. Right. And so,
that's a fact. I do handle the admin stuff. I do.
I'm sure you, like I said, I'm sure you do.
Customer service. I do the taxes. I do the licenses for Fast Draft with these states, the compliance stuff. I work with Billy on a lot of it, but I sometimes I do it myself. Just depends. But yeah, so like with customer service stuff, yeah, it's hard for me to let go of that.
Yeah, dude, you didn't even have to tell me that for me to just know that about you. I mean, you're my friend and I know you. Like I just know that you're not gonna want to hand over. You're gonna kind of want to have a little bit of control over it. And so, but that wasn't a change that I made. I think as far as the written content stuff, I'd be interested to hear what you think. I mean, I just don't think people. And look, it's feedback, and I understand that. When you get feedback from your customers and it doesn't align with what you think is right, you need to listen to your customer because ultimately it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the people who pay you for this content, what they think, right? Now, what you have to think about though is, okay, is this person representative of the larger audience? And is this something worthy of taking into serious consideration? It's where I'm going to have to take time to write up I don't read fantasy football articles. And I don't think that the people that come to my site to use my tools that I've spent a long time creating and the associated videos where we talk about these tools and how we use them and like all the rest of it. I don't think people need to hear from me about a recap of what happened in fantasy this last weekend. And like, no, I think they come to the site because they want to hear from us. They want to watch the videos. They want to hear the podcasts, and they just want to use the tools. They want to go and just click the buttons on the Hyper DFS lineup generator and see all the lineups that we would recommend, or they want to go use the matchup tool. There's a little write-up about how to use the matchup tool if you can't figure it out. right? Come look at the snap counts, the targets, the touches, the data stuff. I go to Player Profiler all the time. Do you know how many times I've read an article there? Never. And I go there and I'll use the data analysis. I'll go there and I'll go there. Like if I have like a dynasty trade somebody's giving me, I'm like, oh, that sounds good to me. Let me go to Player Profiler and see what their trade calculator says. I'm not going there to read like look to these guys to be the 10 biggest busts this week. I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. I just thought it's the first time I'd ever heard that feedback from a customer saying, you guys don't have enough written articles on the site, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel because of this.
My view has been that the written content is what Google wants. That's what Google wants. And so if you want to score well on Google, if you want to be top of the results for different keyword searches, you're going to have written content, because all these search engines, including Google, they were constructed in a world where the internet was primarily blogs. And they are designed to read blog posts and define what the most relevant blog posts are for whatever you're searching for, and put those results in front of their customers. Now Google is more in the business of scraping sites and presenting that data as if it's their own natively inside the Google app instead of linking out to other sites. So now over time, whether it's Google, whether it's Twitter X, they have more and more of these sites have stopped emphasizing links to external sources, right? They've sort of minimized as much as possible and deprioritize as much as possible links to external sources. So that's why when you post a tweet on Twitter X, you shouldn't be posting a link to your website in the tweet. You should be putting some kind of video or graphic to create engagement. And then in the reply tweet, so if people engage with it, then in a follow-up tweet, then they can click the link. Because if you put that link in the initial post that's designed for engagement, if there is an external link in that post, it will get deprioritized.
Right, because X wants you to stay on the site. They don't want you to leave.
Their priority is for you to stay on the site, just like Google's priority is for you to stay on Google and go Google the next thing and go Google the next thing and not link out to some other site. So they're not as actively deprioritizing external links as these social media platforms are, but it's still a problem. It's still a problem. But there's no way that they're going to index an entire article about the top sleepers. And so we do get huge traffic to our articles. Like this past year, our article traffic almost doubled. We're talking about in the tens of thousands of views of some of these articles.
Per article?
Yes. It's incredible.
Okay, but then compare that to the number of times that people click on the player pages. It's got to be minuscule.
Okay, the player pages are in the many, many millions. Okay?
Yeah, so it's like it's minuscule.
Yes, you're right, but I'm just over time, if the ratio was this, now the ratio is this. Like the ratio has come down, where the ratio for us is a little more article heavy than player page heavy than it was, say, 2 years ago. But my approach has always been that our written content is the way we get SEO traffic, the way we...
But does it give value to the customer? Does it give value to your users?
Well, that's an interesting question. Theo was in Madison Square Garden this weekend. I almost said yesterday, just because it would be a little more engaging and a little more relevant. I almost lied and said yesterday, but I did because now we have this standard where we have to tell people exactly when something actually happened. And even though it would make for a better story, I'm not allowed to do that anymore. Thanks a lot. So it was actually all the way back to this past weekend. It was 6 whole days ago. Mm-hmm. Theo was in Madison Square Garden walking through concessions, and someone ran up to him and put his finger in Theo's chest, and it's a big barrel chest, as you know.
It's a big barrel chest for sure.
And said, "You're Theo Greminger." And he goes, "I read your articles every week on Player Profiler. You made me thousands of dollars."
Yeah.
And Theo was like blown away. He was looking around, hoping that as many friends and family saw this encounter as possible.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, man.
But it is true. No, if your articles are surfacing data and analytics that are interesting, then it is going to add value for sure. And I will say that it's getting to the point where, because our site, yes, we love the traffic we get from articles. It's very helpful. The inbound traffic from search is primarily to the player pages. We could paywall some of our articles. Most of these fantasy advice services paywall some, if not all, of their articles.
All of our scouting reports are paywall.
Exactly. So we are considering the possibility of paywalling some of our best articles.
You should.
Because they make people money. So my standard is, if we're putting out information that's just interesting and part of a larger story, like our player pages, that should be free. Because that is the honeypot that creates demand, not just from search, but on social media, backlinks from social media, referrals where someone is sharing a fun website or an interesting website with their friends. That's how we get a lot of traffic. When I've shown search engine and traffic experts, like website traffic experts, our stats, they're blown away by the direct traffic. Like the number of views that we get on player pages that come from bookmarks on browsers and not from search is a ratio that no one has ever seen. And that's just because over time people find this resource, they bookmark it, and it's just something they go to reflexively when they're looking at players, just like you do, as opposed to I'm typing in a bunch of words and then I happen to click on this thing. Yeah. Also, our player pages are so comprehensive that they don't load as fast as a lot of the more rudimentary player pages. And that actually hurts our Google authority score. So we don't show up as high on the search results as we would if we had less data and less visual graphics. But because what's important to us is the visual graphics, we're willing to be maybe in some cases with some keywords slotted in at a lower level. Because once people find Player Profiler and then once they go to one of these pages, they're like, okay, this is something I'm going to look for in the future. This is something I'm going to bookmark. But with these articles, they are valuable. I think that it's something you should continue to lean into. And we are going to most likely at some point this year start to paywall some of these because it's just an industry standard. And, you know, people like Theo, they deserve to earn more revenue for themselves from all the work they're putting in, especially if they're making money for others. So our tools are, you know, dynasty rankings, weekly projections. These are making money for people. The DFS optimizer, they're helping people make thousands of dollars. So if we're helping people make thousands of dollars, then those tools, those pages should be paywalled rightfully. And we are giving away so much information and so much of our site is unpaywalled that that's not something I'll ever lose sleep over.
No, I get it. I mean, it makes sense. And I can certainly, I mean, I do writing like at the Texas rival site, Orange Bloods. I'm wearing a shirt right now. Like I do writing there. It's all behind a paywall, right? I mean, I get that people still like to read articles. I just thought in fantasy football, and I still think this. I'm not going to change my mind on this until we just hear it from here and hear it from a customer after customer. I just think the tools are most important. People just like the tools. I think part of the fun of fantasy football is figuring out, is kind of having to figure some stuff out on your own a little bit, just using tools that smart people have created, and you know what I mean, and kind of going and making your own decisions about this stuff. But I think that you bring up good points, and like I said earlier, it's really not about what I think; it's about what the customer thinks because they're the one paying for it.
You're not a reader. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I'm not much of one. Yeah. No, but not of this stuff. But I do read. I do read like I probably read like 2 or 3 books a month. But
you've referred books to me.
Yeah,
I've read some books that you referred to me, and they were phenomenal books.
Yeah.
And I'm just if you tee me up. If you put a golf ball on a tee, I'm going to get my driver out and take a whack. You know what? That's how I do things. Do
you know anything about – I don't know anything about Cody and Theo's chest workouts. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so in the chat, they're asking if we could post I think it's called Good Genetics. I watched Theo do his leg workout. So I slept over Theo's house like I was in the little car bed. I slept in the car bed at Theo's house because we were gonna fly out together.
One of those race car beds.
Yes, to go to the draft house, and we're confirmed. We're gonna be covering the NFL draft this year. You're going down. Cody's going down. Theo, Billy, we're all going to Tampa. So
is Billy coming back this year?
Yeah, Billy's coming. So
is Frank coming?
Frank's coming. Yeah, we're the whole Nick Coder, all these guys. Like everyone's going, and it's going to be great. And so what ended up happening was, I heard that the draft was going to be in Green Bay, and then I accidentally typed in Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. So I got the wrong bay. So I ended up getting an Airbnb in the wrong bay. It was supposed to be Green Bay. And I did Tampa Bay, and the next thing I know, they're like, no, it's in Green Bay. The link you sent to the Airbnb. This is in Indian Rocks Beach in Tampa Bay. This is the wrong location. You're not going to be able to go to the draft if you guys are doing your draft coverage from Tampa. And I'm like, oh shoot, that's too bad. Oh no, we have to go to Tampa for the NFL draft? Damn it. Oh, it's too late now. I guess we're stuck with it.
Dude, this place has its own, like, I was looking at the photos you sent. I'm a little bit like, I kind of wish it would have been like last year where I didn't even look, I just kind of pulled up on the place. I didn't look at and I still haven't looked through all the photos. I've just seen the kind of top area one. I want it to be a surprise because I know it's going to be really nice, but because last year I showed up. And look, we're never outdoing last year.
Come on, no way. How could we?
You got a lake on one side and a different lake on the other side, and this place that was hand built by some old dude. They wanted to build it for his wife, and so is one of these guys that kind of probably just wanted to get away from his wife for like a few years, and so every little thing is perfectly craftsman. It's just like everything you look, every like ornate detail is just perfect on this giant. I don't even know what you called it. Was it like a modified? It's like a kind of like a big. It's not like a barn, but because it's so nice.
It's just a massive timber lodge that's made from whole trees,
like the joists are an actual like tree. It's just wild, man.
It's hard to believe how. It's a log cabin, but it's a log lodge.
Yeah, but
it's like a scaled up log cabin to like a giant facility where they could do weddings.
And you can tell in Tampa it's going to be awesome because this too is right on the water. But if you look at the the aerial photo,
Right.
and you can look down at it. You can see it's in a little inlet that's just back off of one of these keys, and there's like a little kind of bay area sort of inlet that goes down this one and goes down another one, and it's just like it looks like a fish funnel, Matt. And there's a dock there, and I can bring and. Dude, I'm just telling you, dude, I'm bringing rods and I'm bringing gotcha lures, dude. I guarantee you that there's tarpon back there. Now, whether or not they're running by then, I don't know. Generally, they don't start running until, but draft season is kind of starting to get into tarpon season. They start to run down there off of those keys in Tampa somewhere. Like I caught my tarpon, I think around May 15th, so something like that. So I think might be a tiny bit early for them to run, but there could be just some lone stragglers down there, but certainly, man, with those gotcha lures, we can get after some Spanish Mac. We can. They have the right there off the docks. The boats come and cast into those docks for those for not the Goliath grouper, but those regular size kind of little groupers that they get down there in Florida. It's delicious fish to eat, man. It's gonna be a fun spot. It's gonna be a really, really good spot. I can't wait to get down there. I say screw.
Dylan Gibson's in the chat, and he says, imagine if it was reversed where you guys were supposed to stay in Tampa, but you accidentally got a place in Green Bay.
Oh, like the draft was in Tampa?
Imagine if the draft was in Tampa and we accidentally got a house in Green Bay. That would be bad.
That wouldn't be good, man, especially because there's not that much housing in Green Bay, right? It's like the Airbnb there would be probably pretty expensive, but not really that nice.
Okay, so that's, again, you caught me in another lie. You got me, okay, for showmanship purposes. Once again, I told a white lie. I did it on purpose. I looked at Green Bay. Green Bay was a wasteland for Airbnbs and bad internet connection. And I made the executive decision that being in the same city as the NFL draft
doesn't matter.
Important, but it's not that important. And
Matt, how many
better
people
just to have a great spot?
How many draft correspondents do we send out? You send Allwine, and you sent like Bradley last year, and like all they did was get like 2 man on the street reactions. They came back home and drank a bunch of beers. It's like, I mean, I guess Jason doesn't really drink much beer, but came back home and just hung out. You know what I mean? It's like what value do you really get from it? I guess from maybe being the head of the company and having, it's kind of, I mean, I would guess that probably for the people that work there, it's a little bit of it's kind of like a bonus. It's a nice treat to get to go on this trip. Like your place is paid for. You get to hang out and do fun stuff, and kind of getting those credentials is kind of a real treat for guys, I would guess.
Did you see the photos from the Super Bowl?
Yeah, dude. I mean,
these guys, they were set up with a table and a perfectly positioned seat on the 30-yard line.
Right. No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like,
it's an incredible benefit. It really is.
Right. No,
and the thing is, my justification as the business owner, as the executive, is if we were not a virtual business, if I had to pay for office space and all of these things, imagine how much it would cost. But there is another cost of us not being together ever that I need to account for. And so the way I do it is I bring us all together, and some of that money that would have been spent on physical plant gets spent on this one trip that we do every year to just help promote camaraderie and professional development. And it's important. It's important that we get to spend time in real life together at least once a year. And if you do it just once a year, and you realize all the other costs that you're offsetting, you can justify something that is, it's actually not even that expensive, because to put up 14 people or 13 people in an Airbnb, yeah, it's thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. But if you had to do it with hotel rooms, do you realize how much more expensive it would be? If you had to do all the dinners out and all these things, if we were to go to like some conference,
fun,
like most of these companies, they'll have some conference, and it's a conference center, and it's hotel rooms, and it's catering, and it's all these things. The bill would be astronomical. But the way we do it, we go to Costco and we load up the car and we bring it all, and we barbecue and we do, and when the total bill is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and you get to find out like Billy can cook, man. Like that dude can cook. It's like it's a super fun time, man. I can't wait to get down there for that one. But I mean, but the point was, it's like doing it in Tampa Bay this year. I think it's a great idea. I don't think that there's much I understand like it's a nice treat for guys who maybe have never been credentialed for an NFL event before and stuff like that, to be able to go get credentials and do the fun stuff. And like, that's a very nice add-on and a nice bonus for guys. But just from a content perspective, it doesn't bring much to be there. It kind of doesn't.
I think that based on where we're at with the credentials, because every year you build trust with the NFL, right? They assign credentials. You got to use them. You got to send people. You got to post articles about the Senior Bowl, post articles about the Super Bowl, be on social media promoting their event. There is a quid pro quo. And if you deliver on your end of the bargain, you'll consistently over time get be better and better positioned with the NFL as a media company. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have something similar next year with our Super Bowl credentials in San Francisco, and I might have to go. I think I'm going. If we can get something similar next year, I think I'm going to be our correspondent at the Super Bowl. I think it's okay. I think I can do it. I think it's justifiable.
Do you think our boy that asked Caleb Williams why he wasn't a big enough competitor last year at the Combine is going to get to? Do you think he'll get credentials again?
Dustin Ludke?
Yeah, Dustin.
Yes, Dustin. I hope he does, man. Like I said, I cape up for people like that. I'm like, you should be asking these questions.
No, I thought.
Why was he crying in his mother's arms? And then guess what? One quarterback at the 101 that was crying in his mother's arms was a bust in year one, and the quarterback that showed a little more toughness during the season was the rookie of the year, and ended up losing to the eventual Super Bowl winner in a game where they were more competitive than the Chiefs. So maybe Dustin's question was justified after all. And I said that at the time. And time again, I'm usually the one that's coming in and saying, well, actually, this little guy that you guys are all piling on, maybe not do that, right? Maybe this question isn't so ludicrous because these athletes should not live in ivory towers and they should be questioned about these kinds of things. And it's not a big deal. And you're taking yourself too seriously. For a decade, I've been doing this, and people will come up to me. Speaking of coming up to Theo, people will come up to me at like the FF Expo and say, hey, by the way, I remember you commented on social media about something where I was getting piled on, and that meant a lot to me. And I won't remember. I don't remember doing that. But they're like, but that meant a lot to me that you can. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Because I'm not here to try to just showcase my virtues as a person. I just tell it like I see it, and I'm happy to be in that position. And over the years, it hasn't had any downstream consequences, right? Me saying, hey, maybe leave Dustin Ludke alone. Maybe it's not a big deal. Like, did the NFL be like, hey, he said, stop piling on Dustin on social media, and we're gonna degrade his credentials? Actually, the opposite happened, because you could be supportive of the little guy and not pile on social media, but then you can also genuinely go to these events and support the league, and you can have it both ways. So
you only piled on whenever he deleted the tweet.
Well, that's what made me mad.
Yeah,
I did pile on, but I piled on him once he deleted it, and he's like, listen, man, I can't win. I'm like, no, I'm supporting you. I'm supporting you. Don't delete that shit. I was going to retweet that shit. Like, now I can't retweet it because you're deleting it. You're killing me, dude.
You can't.
So yeah, that's it's. You've got to show up if you're gonna apply for these credentials. You've got to show up, and like for the combine, for example, have they approved your credential yet?
No, man, they don't do that till it's always so tilting. But it's gonna, like last year, it didn't get approved until 4 days before I was set to leave.
It's
So
crazy. People are asking me because I got guys like Johnny Tuma. I've got guys like Austin Abbott that I've said, hey, we're sending you guys to the combine. And they keep asking me, they're trying to make accommodations and they're trying to make their travel arrangements. And I'm like, it's technically still pending.
Can I just tell you, can I just give you the tip, man? It's like, this was a really scary thing for me when I first started doing this and I didn't have, my company wasn't making really money or anything. I'm sending myself, right? And the fact that you have to wait for so long is really tilting because, what I do now is I buy my flights at the beginning of December and get my Airbnb at the beginning of December, because it's like, even though these Airbnb people, they should know every year, especially in Indy, around this time, they should look at the combine and kind of up their rates. But they don't do it until closer in, right? So if you do it early, they've kind of forgotten that that's when it is. And so like, it's important to get it. It's important to get it done early, but then you have the issue of you can't even apply for your credentials until the week between the AFC and the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. You can't really do it until Senior Bowl time. And so basically, what you have to do, the way that I would always kind of what would quell my nerves about it in the earlier years before I basically now know they're going to approve my credentials. They've never not approved them, but I would still get nervous because I'd have to pay for it. So what I just did, and I'd recommend your guys do, is when they get to the combine, just sign up for the PFWA. It's the Pro Football Writers of America. Everybody who's there is there in a professional capacity. They're all qualified to be in the PFWA. And what the PFWA stands to do is they stand to be they're an organization that makes sure that the NFL's media policy is being followed by the various teams and by the league, right? And part of what the NFL media policy says is, like, if you're a duly employed reporter, depending on this for your income, if you're not in any sort of arrears with the football team, or if you've done anything to get yourself kicked out of credentials or whatever else, right? You kind of have a right to be there and earn your living covering this team and putting our league out there into the public ethos, right? And so if the NFL were to say, like, look, we're denying your credentials, well, you're a dues paying PFWA member. It's only like $50 a year, right? You get to vote on the Rookie of the Year and vote on all PFWA teams and stuff. You just call up the PFWA president, they'll call the NFL and they'll take care of it for you. Like, they'll say, like, no, man, this is a PFWA member. He needs to, you need to let him in. So I would say your credentials have gotten approved before. I think they'll probably get approved again, but
that's okay. I think that's all the information I need. Basically, I'm going to tell guys, sign up for the PFWA and book your Airbnb, which is refundable anyway. Yeah. Until, these Airbnbs are refundable right up until like a week before your stay. So go ahead and, we've consistently received the credentials we've applied for, and you're a member of the PFWA regardless. So you should feel confident booking your accommodations in November. So I'll tell everybody that next year. I didn't have that level of confidence, and so I appreciate that.
Yep. No, there you go. Little Indy pack. Oh, but I guess it might not be an Indy next year. This is the second year of the 2-year extension they signed. That's going to be, oh man.
So next year's not going to be an Indy?
Maybe they'll sign another extension. I'm kind of, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what Cody thinks or what some of these other guys think. What do you think? I'm kind of just like, I've gone to Indy 15 years. I know the spots. I know where I like to go.
What's wrong with a tradition like that?
Yeah.
Why do you gotta market everything. I know they want to turn everything into like a fan engagement event, and you can't do that as well in the same location every year. So I understand where the league is coming from. But if I'm just talking about it as a content creator, yeah, it's nice to just know the spots.
Yeah, but I mean, admittedly, I mean, I guess you know, I mean, you know this. I used to play in a major label rock band that would tour on a bus, and it's like I've been to every state in the lower 48. So it's like I don't have the same desire to just do a bunch of traveling and stuff that I realize that a lot of other people might have. I do think a lot of people might think it's cool to. A lot of people might think it's cool to get to travel a little bit more for their job. Maybe, I guess, to go to some different spots. To me, I'm just more about like, dude, I really love Harry and Izzy's. I like to go to, I like to go to this one bowl at Punch Bowl Social, this one bar at Punch Bowl Social. I like the Weber Grill. There's spot, like there's this one place I love to go eat for lunch. I don't know. For me, it's more about just like, I know where to go. I know what I'm doing. I know how to get from place to place. It feels like if it was in LA or something like that, it would take me probably the first day and a half just to figure out how to get to where I'm going or where the convention center is and stuff. So I don't know.
Anyway, we need to pivot back to football. That was one of the better business deep dives we've done. And one more point I want to make is for our premium subscribers, one of the things that is important to me is, you go to Player Profiler on the phone, there might be an ad across the bottom, and a premium subscriber brought this up to me, said, hey, if I'm paying for the premium subscription, I shouldn't be seeing that ad across the bottom. And I said, absolutely not. You're right. So we invested the resources to make sure that when you're logged in and when you're a premium subscriber, like any ads that might have affect at all the user experience, that those get turned off. That's one of the benefits. It's like one of the benefits of having YouTube Premium is that you don't have to sit through the ads. So that makes perfect sense to me. So I just was thinking about, as you were talking, calling back to our original conversation about customer service and listening to customers, and absolutely, if you're not taking action, if you're just ignoring your emails from customers, you got to think about those as a benefit. You think about those as a resource, that you're hearing from people what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and you need to take that as a signal of what next to build, what to fix, what to change. If you're not listening to the world and the feedback from the world, then eventually your product is going to get further and further away from anything people actually want to use. So that's my overall ethos when it comes to running the company and interacting with subscribers and users. And so far, it's served us well. And it's why, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to continue to be the one where the customer service emails go. And people can't believe it, that I'm actually replying to their customer service email. But again, everyone, you can email support@rotowonderworld.com, and that's going to go to the same email as if you had emailed podfather@rotowonderworld.com. And you can do it as a test, and you'll see, even if you're trying to waste my time and just test me, I will fucking reply to you. Go ahead and do it this weekend. Go ahead. Be fun.
I can't believe you're so much different than me, Matt. It's just so.
It's a disease that I have. It's a disease. So, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, they come out last year from Texas. One gets drafted in the first round, one goes in the second round, one goes to the Chiefs, one goes to the Colts. One has best case scenario outcome for their situation in Xavier Worthy. The other has worst case, where they're going to a lot of target competition, to a quarterback that's going to project to finish last in the league in pass attempts. And we had no idea that he would be as ineffective as he was as a thrower. Even the harshest skeptics of Anthony Richardson couldn't have possibly seen that 2024 disaster coming. So Adonai Mitchell, for a lot of reasons, did not fire. What is your projection for Xavier Worthy? I mean, the guy was the playmaker for the Chiefs on offense in the playoffs. He's only going to get better. He has the ability to create separation and win on these short intermediate routes and move the chains, but he's also the fastest player at the wide receiver position ever. So to me, there still isn't enough buzz about what Xavier Worthy did in the playoffs, what he did at the end of the regular season, and what he's going to do this year, where you can get him in the Flex 4 game on Fast Draft. It's still too late. And so he's a guy I legitimately, I don't have another take that's on the other side. I can't just, I mean, that would be a big challenge for me.
Yeah.
If you said, hey, now do your dog and pony show from the Rosterwatch Sirius XM show. Now tell us why you hate Xavier Worthy. I would really struggle. I really would, because I think he's great.
Well, it's like it's the cliche alert, right? So you can fire that sounder, but it's kind of like, you can't, it's going to be hard to,
Cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert.
It's going to be hard to put the genie back in the bottle, or the toothpaste back in the tube with this whole thing, man. It's like,
whoa.
Cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert, cliche alert.
The rare.
That was a double cliche, man. We got to do a double sounder.
The rare double cliche.
That was shameful.
It's gonna. It felt even worse to be the one doing it. I think that things lined up for him, especially sort of down the stretch, right? I mean, it's obvious. I think it would have been a different run out had Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown both stayed completely healthy, right? Like it would have been a different run out. Eventually they would have used him, but I mean, if you just look at what Rashee Rice played in three games this year. Let me just look. Yeah, 3 games. 9 targets for 7 and 103, 6 targets for 5 and 75 and a touchdown, 14 targets for 12 and 110 and a touchdown. So Rashee Rice was looking like he was going to be just a really, really good pick in fantasy football this year. And then of course we saw, Hollywood Brown. It was like, I forgot that was in preseason, the first target he got where he hurt his collarbone and was out for most of the season. And so things broke for him really well for Xavier Worthy, and a guy that would have started out just kind of maybe doing what we saw him do in that first game, where he comes out and does well for you in fantasy, gets you like a 21-pointer, right? But that was because of a long run on a reverse and stuff. And you're just like, well, is that really sustainable? He started to become more of a feature of the offense. And it's like at Texas, this was always my key. I think people would just say, like, man, what is wrong with Quinn Ewers? Xavier Worthy is wide open. And for some reason, these two have no connection. And then over the course of time, man, over the course of this season, after Worthy's gone, you realize, oh, wait, Ewers struggles with a deep ball. It's like, it wasn't just X. It was like, he just struggles with the deep ball. It is what it is. There's something about his launch angle, his velocity, something like that is worrisome. And so whenever you drop him into an offense where he finally starts to get it, and the quarterback for the deep ball that just needs to kind of drop it in there to X is Patrick Mahomes, you just see that duo, and it's exactly what I said. We tweeted it out from the combine last year, right after he broke the record, and I said the NFL is really going to let Xavier Worthy fall to the Chiefs, and every team's going to live to regret it. Because that's the way it's gonna be. So on
Fast Draft, the Flex 4 game, just draft any running back, wide receiver, tight end. Draft 6 guys, top 4 into your lineup every week. It's the game that millions of people are going to be playing in the next couple of years. Pick 41, David Montgomery, then DJ Moore, James Conner, George Kittle, Khalil Shakir, Xavier Worthy, Marvin Harrison, DK Metcalf, Tyrone Tracy, Rashee Rice. That was round 5.
How are people taking Shakir ahead of those Chiefs guys?
I don't
Or
know.
ahead of Tracy. I mean,
or Kittle. I don't understand it.
Kittle is a weird pick there too.
I don't get it. Doesn't make sense. But again, there's,
I was second place in that game last year, and I don't think in any of my it wasn't just that one. I think I had like 3 in the top 10 in that game.
You had a bunch of great teams, man.
I don't think that I have to go back and look. I'm to see if I had a single team that had a tight end on it.
No. Because there's no dedicated tight end position. So the tight ends have to earn fantasy points on their own merits. So if it's Trey McBride or it's Brock Bowers, then yes, they're going to be a top 60 scorer in fantasy points for sure. There's a time and a place to draft them on the Fast Draft Flex 4 game, but there's not many tight ends that should be drafted.
No. Gosh, Bowers was so good this year, though. Would have loved to have him on some more of those teams. Gosh.
I think you did just fine, Alex. I think you did.
I
Yeah, thousands of dollars later, it looks like you did just fine. Now, what about Adonai Mitchell?
Well,
because on this Sonic Truth show, Adonai Mitchell came up as exemplary of how the tape guys can get it wrong. And they got it wrong with Adonai Mitchell. Now, had Adonai Mitchell got drafted by the Chiefs and Xavier Worthy goes to the Colts, then it would be a different conversation.
Oh, can you imagine? We were complaining about Quinn Ewers can you imagine how tilted we'd be about Xavier Worthy running with 15 yards of separation and Anthony Richardson trying to dot that thing into him? It just would have. Yeah, I mean, I realize he's running on the same fast track that he ran a 4.21 and he's in Indy and all the rest of it. He would have done nothing. He would have done nothing until Flacco got in there. Just nothing.
Yeah. You got to feel bad for Adonai Mitchell because he's going to be behind Josh Downs for his career. It's not like he can't ever surpass Josh Downs in ability.
They're different. They're much different players. But Josh Downs is puny. Adonai's a big guy. Josh Downs is one of these guys, man. You talk about seeing that guy at the combine. I'm like, man, he really is a small human. But so they're different kinds of players. But yeah, I mean, Downs, like Reggie Wayne says, he's the best wide receiver they got and all this. So
he is the best wide receiver. But what Josh Downs did at UNC at an early age is not to be believed.
No, yeah, I know. Like that's why I was so surprised when I saw him in person. He just really shrimpy. But good player. Yeah, it's just. I mean, what your option 3 in a Anthony Richardson offense? I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. You're like he's. I mean, Adonai's borderline droppable, and even in Dynasty right now.
2021. Okay, 2021. Josh Downs had a 39% target share with 1,300 plus yards.
Is that right? 39. My God, that's a dominator.
Yeah. And a 70% catch rate and 8 touchdowns. And then he had 11 touchdowns the following season with a 78% catch rate. And he was active on special teams as a punt returner.
And did it all, but, productive while shrimpy. PWS.
Completely dominant. He had 11 touchdowns in 11 games in his junior year. A guy that's standing 5'9", 170. You don't see those guys coming out. You know what? Devontae Smith played all 4 years at Alabama. It's just not the profile of a player because the scouts are not eager for that guy to get into the draft, so they're not pressuring the agent to get him to come out early. But Josh Downs was like, what else can I do at the college level? I'm done here. So there's no way. So you have watched Mitchell his entire career at Texas. Do you see any hope for him? He's just a roster clogger in Dynasty, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, so he was at Texas for his final season. He was, of course, at Georgia before, and Pickens had said that he was going to be the heir apparent to George Pickens. So obviously, the guys around that program, he had some family stuff in Texas. He had to come back. I think it had to do with something about a kid. With Adonai, it isn't anything about him. I think he's a really great player. It's about the offensive system. I just
Who
don't
would you
know
compare him to in the league in a vacuum?
Pickens compares him to Pickens.
Okay.
He does.
All right. Okay.
Let me look and see who my comps were. Like I can't remember. So obviously it wasn't a comp that I was super had a ton of conviction in, but my comps for Adonai Mitchell coming out.
I mean, the guy did run a 4.34. The guy's super athletic.
Dude, my comp was Pickens. I mean,
you know what? He does. He looks more like Pickens than I thought. Now that I'm looking at him on Player Profiler.
Who's the Player Profiler comp?
Mike Wallace.
Okay. That's an interesting comp.
Yeah, I don't see Mike Wallace as much, but in terms of the measurables, the production, Mike Wallace was bigger than people remember. They think of Mike Wallace as, more
that's
Deshaun
right,
Jackson, but actually he was tall, he was lanky, he could get downfield. He had a big year. Mike Wallace had some breakout seasons. So he had at least 1,000-yard season, I think, if not more. So, because I think he also had a 1,000-yard season for Miami. I think he had a breakout in Pittsburgh, and then I think he also had a 1,000-yard season in Miami.
Did he in Miami?
I think he did. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out together.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, man. Podfather wins again. God damn, I'm good at this. Look. He had the breakout in Pittsburgh. 1,200-yard season. 20 yards per reception. That was his second year in Pittsburgh. And then he did ultimately have one useful year in Miami. 1,000 yards.
10 touchdowns. And then he had one more big year in Baltimore. Crazy. I forgot he played that. I forgot he played that final season in Philly. Wild.
He was never top 10 in fantasy points per game. Despite
Mike Wallace, good player. And
you can't say that he didn't hit. Dude, he had 3,000-yard seasons. That guy was a hit.
Adonai Mitchell will not have a Mike Wallace-like career. He just won't.
No. It is interesting, though. Mike Wallace was with Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh, and they called themselves Young Money. That was the name of their trio.
Young Money. Then right after that, they had the Killer Bees.
They all went out and got paid.
Yep.
Yeah, so sure, they made it happen. So in this rookie mock that we did, that we keep referencing on the Sonic Truth podcast last week, our position is that this class is pretty far inferior to last year for fantasy football because the wide receiver class cannot possibly compete.
No.
Because the quarterback class cannot possibly compete because there is no Brock Bowers. And as good as these running backs are, running backs have a shelf life in Dynasty, and they just can't put up the same amount of lifetime fantasy points as a wide receiver. The top 5 position players in Dynasty are all wide receivers. So there's no way that you're going to be able to stack the deck with wide receivers or stack the deck with running backs and compete with a class that stacked the deck with wide receivers the year prior.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from that perspective, clearly, I mean...
How could you not look at it from that perspective? What other perspective is there?
Well, there's the perspective...
If you want to talk about real NFL perspective, well, yeah, running backs are not as valuable as wide receivers. Now, it's interesting to have that conversation post Saquon Barkley winning the Super Bowl, and I'm getting all my friends in my private group chats yelling at me for saying running backs don't matter and I need to eat it and I'm wrong. And how does it feel to be so wrong that Saquon Barkley has finally proven all of the running back discounters wrong, and he is the exception that proves the rule. Of course, there is going to be a running back that goes out and gets 2,000 yards. Of course, he makes a difference. Running backs absolutely make difference for an offense. They're difference makers. It's just what level of difference. And it's possible that positional valuations can jump the shark at any given time in a league. And that's what happened with running backs. There was an overcorrection. Yes, Marrow was right. John Marrow was right. He should be losing sleep over letting Barkley go to an interdivisional competitor at below market prices. That's a fail, right? And is that a big enough mistake to cost Joe Schoen his job? No, but it will. Like, perception is reality in these worlds. That's the thing that's going to cost him his job, is this perception that Saquon Barkley went and left New York and won the Eagles a Super Bowl. But anyone that watched the Eagles in the playoffs this year knows they would have won with any running back there.
No, that's not true.
What?
I mean,
you think that because they had Saquon Barkley, they won games in the playoffs they would not have won otherwise?
You're really coming on here and saying that Saquon Barkley had nothing to do with their Super Bowl run?
I didn't say that. I said that they were better. They scored more points than they would have, but at no point was any game decided by the fact they had Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley absolutely took over football games, Matt. He ran for 2,000 yards. He almost broke the NFL record. Just to discount
not
that,
in the playoffs. They would have made the playoffs.
The whole season
they would have steamed. This team was way more than Saquon Barkley. But what happens is it all gets distilled down to, let's dunk on the stats and analytics guys because they were so wrong about Barkley, when that was never the point. The point was, you don't draft a guy with the second overall pick at the running back position. Just like you shouldn't be drafting a tight end with the second overall pick. You shouldn't be drafting a safety with the second overall pick. You shouldn't be drafting a punter with the second overall pick. That was the point all along with Saquon Barkley. It wasn't, you should just give away this asset to a division rival. No one ever said that.
Yeah, I'm not accusing you of saying that. I'm just saying it's crazy. It's crazy to say that with all the conviction in the world that the Eagles season would have been the exact same season with or without Saquon Barkley versus a replacement level running back, when Saquon Barkley had a top 3 season at his position ever in the history of the league. Like, it's just
during the Super Bowl, I was wearing a Kenneth Gainwell t-shirt.
Okay, we'll see. There you go. There you go. I mean, come on, man. It's like, and to say, and look, and I'll just say this about this year's, just for Dynasty and for Dynasty rookie drafts. You say that, and look, we both understand all your rookie drafts are PPR. It's like, it's you want to build around elite wide receivers. You and I have been doing Dynasty shows for decades now.
And an NFL team, if an NFL team is drafting a running back over a wide receiver in the first round, if they need both, that is going to be a mistake. It is.
Okay.
That is going to be a mistake. That is still a mistake. Saying hyperbolic statements like running backs don't matter just to prove a point. It's not like they literally don't matter. They do matter. Of course they matter. You can't watch football and say that those yards that Saquon Barkley got would have been gained by Kenneth Gainwell. They would not have.
Yes. Understood.
We all know that. But on the margins, going out and getting A.J. Brown, that upgrade was way more valuable than upgrading the running back position.
Well, especially with how they'd been drafting wide. What they did was they said, like, you know what? Last time we had a big decision like this, we drafted Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. How about we go out and we get somebody that we just know is already good? and we let the Titans go ahead and take our pick, and they can take Treylon Burks.
Do you think that Bijan Robinson going at 10 to Atlanta was good value?
Well, don't get me started on Super Bowl winning GM Terry Fontenot and the idiotic moves that he makes. Drafting
so we're on the same page here.
Yes, but I'm talking about for Dynasty.
And you can't say that the Eagles would not have won a Super Bowl had they had Josh Jacobs back there. They would have won the Super Bowl with Josh Jacobs.
Far better than a replacement level running back, Matt. That's a disingenuous. Like he's far better than replacement level. Jacobs is one of the better backs in the league. Yes, dude. Yes.
You think Josh Jacobs is a top 10 running back talent? I was just trying to say, give me a running back who happened to be a free agent last year that was available that is not a top 10 running back talent.
I don't think that they win with Aaron Jones.
You don't think the Eagles win with Aaron Jones? I think Aaron Jones is even better because actually Aaron Jones' skill set is much more similar to Saquon Barkley's than even Josh Jacobs. So I think that's a perfect example. I should have said Aaron Jones.
I don't think they win it with it. I think the
wait,
season.
Let me get this straight. And I would ask the chat to also contribute any thoughts about what you're saying. You're saying the Eagles win it with Josh Jacobs, but not with Aaron Jones?
Yeah, I think that Josh Jacobs would have been a better fit for running behind one of the better offensive lines in the league and just like better pure runner. I think that he would get what was blocked for him, and he would kept the offense on schedule and on pace the same way that Barkley did. I think that Jacobs is a better runner than Aaron Jones. He is. He just is. It's like it's inarguable.
But that would have made the difference between winning and losing the Super Bowl.
I think that I mean, how much better does Saquon Barkley have to show you that he took over football games for that team? It wasn't like, man, you're just thinking about this last game.
What did he get them? Really, one extra home game?
What?
What did he really net them in the regular season? They'd have got one extra home game because he won them a game or two that they wouldn't have won otherwise. And then there was no game in the playoffs that he won them.
Let me just look back. Let's look back through his games. So this last year, I mean, do you think in a close game versus Green Bay in week 1 where he goes for 24 attempts for 109 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, catching 2 footballs for 23 yards and 1 touchdown might have helped in a very, very close 34-29 game? How about at New Orleans where they won 15-12 where he went for 147 and 2? Do you think that he might have had anything to do with him winning by 3 points in that super close win at New Orleans?
That one's a fallacy because without him, they might have had a different offensive game plan and scored even more points.
Matt,
that's the Ewing theory. So you know about the Ewing theory where when Patrick Ewing was on the floor for the Knicks, their offense was often less efficient because everything revolved around getting the ball to Patrick Ewing instead of having an offense with better flow and better ball movement.
I just feel,
and sometimes you end up when you get a premium running back like a Bijan Robinson, like a Saquon Barkley, it incentivizes coaches to call more run plays, which are by their very nature less efficient.
I feel
so you're almost tempting the coaches to make the offense less efficient by adding an elite running back.
I just feel like we're in the same movie theater, brother. We're just watching different movies. I see Saquon as being a giant. Like Saquon was a giant.
I watched the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was won because of plays made with Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown. Those were the plays that made the biggest difference.
How did they get to the Super Bowl?
The plays were made with Hurts to Brown, Hurts to even fringe wide receivers.
You're going to talk about the
receivers that they picked up off the scrap heap from Washington.
And the Chiefs
and every time I looked up, there was another 1 yard run by Saquon Barkley.
And what the Chiefs said is we're not going to let 26 can't do this to us. We're not going to allow it. It's not going to happen. Under no circumstances are we going to allow him to do this to us.
So you think that the presence of Saquon Barkley actually tilted the Chiefs' defensive game plan to make it easier for Hurts, Smith, and Brown and Dotson to
I'm not saying that I know it to be true, but I'm saying it's certainly a viable theory, and it certainly is true that their game plan was to stop Saquon.
You think
Barkley.
A defensive coordinator would fall for that shit?
Will fall for what?
Fall for the fact that your best running back or your best player is a running back? That fallacy? You think that's what that's interesting? I mean, that if that's what happened, then the Chiefs' defensive coordinator should be ashamed of himself.
Look, man, do you not see Spagnuolo as being a bit of a boomer?
Yeah, I think that is almost without a doubt what happened. There's almost no other way to explain how a team could get so dominated as to go into it with such a backwards defensive game plan.
Well, maybe.
That's the answer, is they fell for the banana in the tailpipe, that the reason this team is in the Super Bowl is their running back, that Spagnuolo fell for it, and that's why it was 40-0.
Yeah, and the game. The one thing about that game, and dude, I got to get out of here. My kids are looking at me like they're about to eat their arms off. I got to give them some lunch. But I will say this: that game was like when people look back at that game, what was that, 40-22?
Yeah, but it really was 40-0.
People are just going to be like, "Oh, well, it must have been a pretty good game."
That was that was an exciting game.
No,
it wasn't. So it's a very easy position to take for anyone that has the data going back for decades on the value of receivers versus running backs, and that is for real football as well as for Dynasty. And you're here to admit that this class for Dynasty, for fantasy football Dynasty leagues, this 2025 class is inferior to the 2024 class. You are admitting that right now.
What I'm here to say is last year was much, much better for wide receivers. There's absolutely no doubt. But in your fantasy football leagues, running backs still do matter to a great extent. And here's the thing. If you look at the 2017 class, of which this class is better, you would have come out of that thing with getting guys on your fantasy rosters like Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon and James Conner and there's even ones Aaron Jones and many, many others that was like 8 that I just said that have been fantasy relevant and have been bulwarks on your roster for the last 7 years that you've been able to get a lot of good fantasy output from. This class is going to have more of them. And so if you need running backs, what I'm telling you is if you've gone wide receivers, if you've been a good dynasty player, you're loaded up with young wide receivers, you've been doing good, but you're struggling a bit at running back, guess what? Your team is about to be remade because this class is better than 2017, and you're going to get multiple studs if you focus on the running back position.
You are the Steve Spagnuolo of fantasy analysts. From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.